Damon, and this is Gig Stories. Thank you for checking out this episode. Um, if you like the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, share our stuff. Really helps us with our channel. Today, my guest is a good friend of mine, someone I've known since pretty much the beginning of me playing music. He's been around town. He's a international blues man. He's been all over. He's had so many cool experiences, and I consider him a good friend of mine. So please welcome Sean Chambers.
Thanks, Damon, man. Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. Glad to have you, bro.
Yeah, man. So I got a gig story for you. I'll try to keep it, around 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, well,
So basically, I'll tell you about the first time I went to Ireland and take you back to the year, I think it was 2000 or 2001. And so actually a little bit before then, back in 1998, I did my first album. And shortly after I released my first album, my manager called me up and he said, "Hey, I just picked up Hubert Sumlin, and he needs a band to play Blues Stock, which is a festival in Memphis, Tennessee, back in 1998. He said, "Would you and your band be interested in backing him up for this one show?" I said, "Of course." So he said, "Well, just learn all the Wolf songs you want." For the people that don't know, Hubert Sumlin was the guitar player for Howlin' Wolf for 25 years. And played with Muddy Waters, and he was one of the heaviest Chicago blues players out there,
And a sweetheart.
And a sweetheart of a guy, man. Absolutely right. Talk about gig stories. If he was here, he'd have a few to tell too. He was a storyteller. Anyways, so I hooked up with Hubert in 1998. We did that gig, and he had always been a sideman for his whole career. He never really had his own band. He was always known as a sideman. But after that one gig in Memphis, he said, "Man, I want you guys to be my group." So we ended up being his band, and I was the band leader, and it was my band backing him up for about, I don't know, maybe 4.5 years. And so I think it was around 2000, 2001, we had a tour. It was about a week and a half or two in England, and then we were going to take a ferry from Wales over to Ireland and do a week in Ireland. We had about 5 shows booked in Ireland, in like Cork, Dublin, Northern Belfast, Ennis, 1 or 2 other places in Ireland. So what you do when you're in Wales, first of all, we had a van full of our gear and our luggage and our guitars and all that. So we took a ferry from Wales to Ireland. The car ferries where you drive your car on the bottom and all that stuff. Yep. So we had to catch the 1 o'clock ferry because we were supposed. What it was is it was the Cork Blues and Jazz Festival. In Cork, Ireland, and it was our very first show. And then that week we had about 5 more shows. So our manager said, we got the 1 o'clock ferry, and we had our schedule and everything, and we're supposed to get into Cork around 5 o'clock. Once we get into Ireland, it's about a 2-hour drive to the venue. We're supposed to play about 8 o'clock or something like that. Well, the seas and the weather that day were really super rough. So the 1 o'clock ferry was canceled. So they had another ferry at 3 o'clock, and I believe another one at 5 o'clock, and then that was it. So Steve, our manager, said, if we got one chance to catch the 3 o'clock ferry, but if we miss that, then we're canceling the gig. There's no way we're going to make it because the whole festival was over at like 10 o'clock or something like that.
Right.
And the festival there in Cork was held like in about 3 or 4 different clubs on the main street there in Cork. So you could go to one club and see a band and go to another club and see a band. So the 3 o'clock came around and we still couldn't take the ferry to Ireland because the seas were too rough and the weather was too bad. So Steve, our manager, said, he talked to the people in Ireland and the gig's canceled, right? So we're not playing today, but we still need to get over there. So there's a 5 o'clock ferry. If we can catch the 5 o'clock ferry, great, but we're not going to be playing tonight. So it was kind of like at ease, you know what I mean? You got the day off, So turns out we did catch the 5 o'clock ferry. But as far as we knew, we weren't playing that night. I mean, because by the time, it's about a 3-hour ferry ride, if I remember right, from Wales to Ireland. And then it's like a 2-hour drive from when the ship gets to Ireland at the border patrol, the ship, when you get to Ireland, you still have the border patrol there when you drive your car off. You got to go through customs and all that.
I take that.
Yeah, you know about that stuff. So we catch the 5 o'clock ferry. As far as we knew, we weren't playing. So we were having a good time on the boat, drinking some of the Guinness, the Irish Guinness, and maybe a little bit of Jameson here and there, And there was a table of about 20 Irishmen and Irish guys sitting just a little bit kind of close to us on the ferry. And they were just hooting and hollering, "Oh, the captain wanted in, we've got water coming in," and doing shots. "Hey, ho, hey, no." And they do a shot and go, "Hey, ho." So finally we started going, "Oh, oh," and they invited us over to the table. So we started drinking a little bit of Jameson and having some more Guinness, and we were dressed. We weren't dressed to go there and play. We were just in our jeans and our loose shirts and whatever, our traveling clothes, Yeah. And, of course, if we would have had a gig that night, we would have been resting and relaxing and, not having quite as much of a good time. So, so we get into Ireland about, I don't know, I forget, the ferry got there at like, 8:30 or 9 o'clock or something. And, we finally get into our van, which is on the ferry. We drive it off. We're in the line, to go through customs. And half of us are asleep. Me and Hubert were in the back seat, kind of, just with our heads in our hands like that. And I think our manager, Steve hadn't been drinking hardly at all, and he was driving the van. And the Border Patrol stuck his head in when we got to the window. And we all had our passports, and he goes, "Are you guys the Hubert Sumlin and Sean Chambers band?" Without us even saying a word. And we said, "Yeah." And he's like, "The promoter of the venue called and said he wants you guys to play." He goes, "Go now, go. It's about a 2-hour drive." And we're like, "Okay, here's our passports." He's like, "Nope, I don't even want to see your passports. Just get going." So we get to the, they tell us to go ahead and just go straight to the gig because they end up wanting us to play,
Yeah.
So, and it was actually at a place called The Lobby. I still have the shirt that still fits, barely, but still fits. And plus, once we got to Ireland, it was a 2-hour drive to the club. And so the festival, I think, was supposed to be over about 10 or 11 o'clock. It was supposed to be over. We didn't get there till probably 11:15. Mm-hmm. And I just had loose jeans on and like a flannel shirt. And when we got there, I was going to get my suitcase and put on my clothes. Promoter was like, "No, man, just get inside and we're going to play. You guys are going straight inside to play." And we went inside. The place was freaking packed, balls to the wall, asses to elbows, cigarette smoke all in the air. I mean, we walked in, feeling like zombies. And right when we walked in, the place erupted. Yeah. The American, the Hubert Sumlin band's here, And we were like, so we got up there, and Hubert was tuning his guitar, and we were getting tuned up. And why, just to kill the silence after we got on stage and stuff, I said, "Sorry, we're not really dressed for the gig. We just got off the ferry and we thought we weren't going to be playing tonight." And they automatically started cheering and yelling, and, "We don't care what you're wearing. We just want to hear the music. Thank you for coming out." They were the greatest crowd. And so we ended up getting there at like 11:15 and playing the show, and the people stuck around. And it was, I got several stories I could share with you, but that's one of the ones that really stands out. And I still think about today. And it's funny because after I got out of the shower tonight, I was looking for a shirt to wear, for our interview tonight, just a t-shirt. And I happened to run across the shirt that, about the story, which is I thought coincidental. I forgot I even had it. And so that's my gig story, man. That was my first time in Ireland. And of course, Cork is where one of my favorite Irish guitar players, Rory Gallagher, grew up.
Yeah.
I think he was born in like Ballyshannon area, but he grew up in Cork. And heard a lot of great Rory Gallagher stories that night after the show. The people were really grateful that we, came all that way and still played that late at night. And, it was a really, really, really one of those, memorable.
Those are the kind of gigs that make people remember you.
Hey, I'm Damon, and this is Gig Stories from Fowler's Garage. If you like the content, please hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and a share.